Thank you to these companies and organizations that make the Before I Die New Mexico Festival possible. A good goodbye. Gail Rubin puts the fun in funeral planning. Compassion and choices, improving care, expanding options, and empowering everyone to chart their end-of-life journey. Daniel's Family Funerals and Cremations, Fairview Memorial Park, Gabaldon Mortuary, Sandia Memory Gardens, and Vista Verde Memorial Park, all in the Albuquerque area. Estate Pros, offering professional dispersal of personal possessions due to a move, illness, or death. The Final Exit Network, educating about and defending the right to choose at end of life. French Funerals and Cremations and Sunset Memorial Park in Albuquerque. Gathering Us, providing in-person and virtual memorial services and online memorial pages. Keeper, providing hybrid and virtual memorial services and keeping memories alive with online tributes to preserve, celebrate, and share life legacies. Morris Hall, estate planning attorneys in New Mexico and Arizona. Remembering a Life, your guide to honoring a life well lived, from planning a tribute to mourning a loved one. And Retirement Extender, investment management services with a personalized strategy recommendation based on your needs and objectives. Hello out there in Zoom land. Hello to everybody in the room here. I'm very pleased to introduce to you Annie Mattingley, who's worked with us on a number of Before I Die festivals. But this year it's something different from Women Who Know. Annie is the author of a book called The After Death Chronicles, True Stories of Comfort, Guidance, and Wisdom from Beyond the Veil. And she also facilitates workshops addressing grief and after-death communication. So, Annie, take it away.
Thank you. This is rather sort of startling. There's this audience, and then there's that other audience, and I don't know. And I just realized I didn't put lipstick on because I always have my mask on, so I don't wear it. But I noticed that Gail has hers on, so she's on top of things, I'm going to start with reading one of my poems, a fairly recent one, unpublished, because it'll tell you something about how I got into this field. It is entitled, My Body Knows. Lifting from my left toes up to my crown, a slim streak like weak electricity prodded me awake that dawn when I longed only for sleep's amnesia. I shuttered my eyes. The energy rose through me once more. Again, I turned away, burrowed my face in pillow until a rushing full-body torrent propelled me up, broke through the floodgates of my rational mind, gushed out my mouth before thought could interfere. Randy, is that you? I scanned the corners of the bedroom. If it's you, do something, move something so I know. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. No breath left my body until the sound of her voice, not like her voice, Randy's real voice, transformed my view of death and life forever. Your body knows, my daughter, dead for 20 days, told me. Your body knows. I breathed out. I breathed in awareness that she was with me, that she was all right, that she had spoken through the illusory veil that divides the dead from the living, that death is not final, that when she took her own life, she only took her body and her pain. Her soul was still here. All this and more, my body knew. My body knows. My body will always know. And so that experience catapulted me into a new phase of my life, because when I began to share cautiously, I didn't at first, with a few people that this had happened, and more, because she continued to visit me. I found that all kinds of people had had experiences. People I'd known for years who'd never told me that they'd had some contact with a mother, a father, someone they loved who had died. And I came to call it our best kept secret because we don't talk about it in this culture. In other cultures it is spoken about, but not so much here. And so I began to collect the stories, first from my friends and then strangers, and then they started pouring into me. People say, how did you get all these stories? Because in my book there are hundreds of them. My story and the stories of many other people. And I didn't have to pursue them after a while. People were knocking me on the door, showing up in the post office, it just happened. And so I began teaching about this subject. And this altar making workshop is, you don't have to desire contact with a dead beloved to create an altar. It's really, an altar is a place to focus and invite the more subtle, the not visible. We tend we're in physical bodies. We feel, we eat, we sleep, we wake up, we hurt, and we think that that's it. Or we can think that much of the day. You may think of that. An altar gives you a place to look and say, no, there's more. This is not the only thing. And in fact, my belief is that it's probably the smaller amount of existence than what we have here. But I don't know that. That's I just call a belief. This experience is not a belief, that's real. But we have to give ourselves an opportunity to invite these other realms to be present for us. They are present for us, but to acknowledge that presence and to participate in that other reality in a different way. Certainly making contact with a dead beloved is a beautiful use of an altar, but it is not the only one. You might want to make contact with your higher self, with God, with some representative of God, whatever religion or teaching you're involved in or not involved in, or just ask questions. Who dies? That's the name of a Stephen Levine book. I stole that one. Who dies? What dies? What goes on beyond this death, beyond the body? What is available to us? So I consider an altar an invitation. I think it needs an intention, and you might think about that as I've put out all these things we're going to get to play, all these goodies. And so you need an intention, a focus, something that you are wanting to receive from this workshop. A location helps. Sometimes a time helps. You might say, okay, I've created this little altar, and every Friday night when I get off work, that's when I'm going to spend 15 minutes, a half an hour, whatever you choose. Now, altars can be pretty fancy. Go to any cathedral, go to Mexico on Day of the Dead, and then even here, they can be very, very elaborate. And I've spent a lot of my life in Mexico and seen a lot of the Day of the Dead altars there. They can fill up a space from here to there to the ceiling and be exquisitely beautiful. To honor a mother who died that year, or to honor many, many people. And the time we are in right now is the perfect time of year for having an event like this and for creating an altar and using it. I don't know why the veil thins at this time of year, but it does. I've experienced it, and I have this card because I don't always remember all the different cultures that use this time of year. Mexico, Central and South America, the Zuni, the Hopi, the Aztec, All Saints' Day, the Celtic Samhain, Veterans Day, Remembrance Day. Now, in the United States, we tend to go for Halloween, you know, and we kind of make a joke out of it. But skeletons all over the place. We drove up, my friend Jude and I, who's selling my book over here, drove up from Santa Fe today, and we saw skeletons along the road here and there and there. It's all lighthearted, but in the cultures that really follow this as a something more important, not just a children's game, they take quite seriously that on, for instance, in parts of Mexico, it's November 1st. They invite the dead, and the altar is an invitation. Put food, favorite drink, music, all kinds of things that the person who died that they're honoring or people may love. And then on the next day, or, well, some places it varies. Some places celebrate as much as a week. It's most commonly November 1st and 2nd. And then at the end of that time, they say, okay, now you can go back. Although they can visit again too, but that's the traditional way in that culture. Now, I talked about the elaborate altars, but the first time that I gave one of these workshops, while the participants were creating their own altars, I said, okay, I'm gonna see if I can make an altar out of this particular thing where I don't know where they are. It doesn't matter, but I said, I had put some toilet paper rolls in with the collection of things. I thought, I don't know what somebody's gonna do with that, but who knows? So I picked up a toilet paper roll. I figured if you could make an altar out of a toilet paper roll, you can make it out of anything. And I found these two pretty little lids, and guess what? They fit exactly in the end of the toilet paper roll. And I put some nice paper on it, and then I put a picture that was representative of what I was wanting to, who I was wanting to honor, and I wrapped a ribbon around it, and then this opens. So I can put little prayers, little letters in there. And I keep it on my larger altar at home. But to me, it's an example of how simple you can go if you want to. Just a toilet paper roll. Then the other kind of simple, I have this that I love for this time of year. And that's a little fancier. That gives a base, a foundation for it. And then a candle. Some places don't let you light real candles, so I brought this fake one. But a candle and a picture of my daughter. If I have those things, a foundation, a light, a picture, I have an altar. So even if you're away and you don't have your altar, and you're not at home, you can create one very, very simply. I'll leave her here to look. She tends to visit these events, participate. Let's see, where else do I want to go with this? Well, I'll say a little bit about how after-death communication works, because in our culture, the media makes it into a horror thing, something to be afraid of. Oh, they're going to come and they're going to get you, and they're going to be ghosts in the night, and they're awful. They're really scary. I don't like those movies. And that's not generally how it is with after-death communication from our beloveds. First of all, they come with messages of reassurance. The most common message I have heard is, I am okay. That's all. Sometimes they don't say anything else. And sometimes they don't even say it. But if you feel their presence, or you see them, or you smell them, you know they're okay. Because how could they come otherwise if they weren't okay? And that's what they're coming to do. I once met a woman at a party in Mexico who asked me what I did. I was working on the book. And she said, I had an experience. She was very hesitant. She said, but I don't really know if it was real. I don't think so. She says, I told my husband about it, and he didn't think it was real. She had a dream. You dream a train came along. It was very dark except for the train. Her father, her dead father, stepped out of the train, looked her in the eye, and said, "I'm okay." Got back in the train went back into a tunnel, disappeared. She gets up in the morning, she tells her husband she's touched, she's crying. He says, "It's nothing, it's just a dream." But when she told me, and I told her, that I had heard over and over and over of people being told, "I am okay," she just started to cry. She was so happy. She said, "My father really is okay." And she had held that in her with unsureness for a long, long time, several years. So that was very, very powerful. So that's the most common, simply reassurance that the person is okay. And then there's wisdom and guidance, which can even be life-saving. I know of a woman whose daughter had died. She was driving a car. Some time had passed. She was driving. And her daughter, she had no contact with her daughter, didn't expect it. And her daughter's voice says, "Bring the car to a stop." It doesn't say stop. Bring the car to a stop. Up ahead, some feet away, is a green light. So instead of going through the green light, which is what you do at a green light, she stopped. A great big truck goes zooming through the red light. She feels that her daughter saved her life with that guidance. That's the most dramatic driving story, though I've heard "slow down," "you're going too fast," other statements like that. But that's powerful. And that, I think, is in contrast with what the media, the movies and so on, I think that portray the dead as coming to harm us. They actually want to help us. They want to save us. They definitely want us to live. And they will save our lives if need be. They can bring guidance of all sorts, and they also sometimes bring messages for other people, because not everyone is able to receive a message directly. And sometimes I think that when a message comes through someone else and it comes for Mary from John, it's because not only Mary needs the message, but John needs it too. It isn't for him, but by receiving it, he learns something that he didn't know before. I have a former neighbor of mine who, when she was 12 years old, her beloved grandmother had died not too long before that, and she had a dream, and her grandmother said, "Tell your father that I'm okay, for starters, and that it's okay that he had promised not to put her into a facility, and it was not possible, and he did, and he felt terrible afterwards, just terrible after her death." And so she delivered the message to her father, and he cried, and he was greatly relieved. And she, as a 12-year-old, learned something about the power of dreams. She learned that she can relay a message. She learned that her grandmother was okay. She learned something about her father's feelings, because she didn't know that he was suffering so much from guilt, because he wasn't sharing that with his 12-year-old daughter. So it was a complex stew, really, of things that came from that one dream and that message delivered. So there are a lot of ways that after-death communication can occur. Dreams, I find, are the most common, probably because my assumption is that that's because we're more comfortable with that. Most of us have dream recall, at least some of the time, and it doesn't freak us out as much as a vision may. Nature, it's why going for a walk or putting flower or a pine cone or something with significance in an altar can have meaning. I think I need some water. Excuse me. Visions. I've had many, many, many after-death communication experiences now, but I've never had a vision because that's not how I hear. And like in my poem, I hear voices, I don't see. Some people only see, but they never hear. So it depends on our style, just who we are and how we are. So auditory is the formal name for the kind that I have. Kinesthetic, some people are actually touched, physically touched. They feel the person. Olfactory, where you smell the perfume, the favorite flower, the shampoo that they used, or something of that nature, which in a situation in which there's no other source for it. That's where it comes from, and you know when you have it. And that's the nature of these experiences too, that if you tell someone about it, they go, well, yeah, but you know, when you've had that contact, when you felt this person, you know, sometimes I may feel my husband when I know he's there. I don't hear him, I don't see him, but I know that he's there. And that's an inner knowing, that's a knowing with a capital K. Just like the visions come with an eye that is not, it's not these eyes. What do we see that with? We see it with some other eyes. So there's a knowing and a sensing that occurs in most of these cases that shows us that the situation, that the contact is real. Sometimes it's synchronicity. You know, just these two things align in such a way that you know that they couldn't have happened by sheer coincidence. You may hear, let's say a person has a favorite piece of music that's not in the current repertoire. You don't hear it often. And they die, and you turn on your car radio, and that piece of music goes on, and then you go and you do something else and you change the station, or it's the next day, and you turn on your car radio, and the same piece of music comes on, and it's their favorite music, and you know that this is not accidental. Electrical situations, they're apparently, because the dead are energy, they can interact with electricity and with technology in a way that seems easier for them than some other ways. It had happened at my daughter's memorial service. The people that she worked with, she was a doctor, and the people at her clinic, they closed the clinic, they brought everybody there, but they had not, they knew that she was dead, but the woman who told them didn't say that it was suicide. And the minister was talking, and suddenly the lights all went out, and all we had were candles. I'm telling the story wrong. The lights had gone out before, that's right, before the service. Couldn't figure out how to get them back on. So there were candles all over the room, which my daughter loved. And then the minister mentioned suicide, and all the lights came on, and my son-in-law said, "It's Randy," and I sort of thought, what is that about? But he was right. I got it by the end of the day that was exactly, she was saying, shed light on this. Don't hide this. This is not a secret we want to keep in the corner. People need to know. And so I thought it was a pretty good way that she did that. And then there can be physical manifestations. A woman who has a rocker, I don't know if it was a rocker or a recliner, I can't remember. It's been too long since I wrote that book and interviewed these people. Anyway, she inherited it from her mother. She was living with someone else. It was the only thing of significance that she had in her, size-wise, that she had of her mother in this apartment. And she would always sit in it in the evening. And she'd watch TV or talk or whatever, or read. This was her chair. And one day, a guest came in and sat plunked down in that chair and then popped up and said, "Whoa, whoa, and then sat back down, and it popped up again and said, is this like a massage chair or something? The chair was vibrating when someone else sat in it, but it didn't do it when she sat in it, you know? But it was basically, her mother was saying, this is your chair, honey. This is not for anybody else. You got this chair. So those kinds of manifestations can happen. Blenders that go on in the middle of the night. Who ever heard of that? Televisions that change channels when nobody's touching them or go on and off. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. So I think that's about everything that I have to say in preparation for, because those of you who are on Zoom cannot participate, unfortunately, in all the making of the altars, but you can make your own. Like I said, toilet paper holder, toilet paper rolls, anything. I've got out here a million things, papers and pens and all boxes of all sorts for people to play with, but you who are at home can do the same as well.